This is the CHRILLCAST, not the quartering. Hold on, let me fix this.
Or is it?
It's not the quartering. He hasn't sponsored us yet, okay?
Nope.
He might after that video we did yesterday.
Yeah,
so
we'll see on that one.
What is today, Will?
Today is Wow Cow Wednesday.
We got it for once. All right, so today we're going to be covering backwards compatibility, a little history lesson for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a thing. It has happened.
Pause the video after I ask this question, okay? What was the first game console to feature full backwards compatibility? Find out.
After these messages.
Find out
after
this lengthy advertisement. No.
Yeah.
We don't have any ads. What are we talking about here, okay? So, I've already given you enough time to think about this, all right? Your answer may be the PlayStation 2. Nope. It might be the Xbox 360. Also, nope. Your answer might be the GameCube with the Game Boy Player, but also, nope. The first console in the Americas. I'm gonna say that because Japanese consoles probably had something like this at one point in time. And I know the Master System was backwards compatible with the SG-1000. I just found that out today. But that's a Japanese only market. I'm not gonna count it for this. The Atari 7800 was the first console in the North America to have backwards compatibility. But
what was weird about it? Yeah.
It was two consoles backwards. It was the Atari 2600. Apparently the 5200, don't care.
Yeah. So this has inspired PlayStation.
I didn't even think about that, but that's a good one, yeah. All right. So Atari 7800 was released in May of 1986. It's considered the first backwards compatible console to be released, which makes sense because Atari was the biggest name even still back then.
Mm-hmm.
Since they weren't overtaken by Nintendo.
And it will be again this year with the VCS.
Predictions. Go watch our 2020 predictions video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that Will said that. That's definitely what he said.
I'm pretty much sure I did that, yeah.
It will be backwards compatible with all Atari games.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
Supposedly, all Atari produced games will be free on that console. Maybe not the Jaguar, but
Yeah,
definitely the
we will
2600,
see.
5200, and 7800. All right. But anyways, I digress. The Atari 2600 was released in September of 1977. Most of us that are watching this program or listening or producing probably aren't old enough to remember that. But anyways, so it was released in 1977. The Atari 5200, the least successful of the three consoles, I think, because the controllers kept breaking and nobody wanted to buy it, was released in November of 1982. And then the final of the three original Atari consoles, not including all the Atari computer things that they released in between these, was the Atari 7800 in May of 1986. Okay? So they went backwards and said, okay, it'll be really easy for us to say, okay, all Atari 2600 games, you can play them on the 7800. I think the sales of the 5200 were so dismal, they said, nope, we're just not even going to include that. So, yeah.
If no one bought it anyways, why would you need backwards?
So now we're going to go through a brief list of at least the most popular backwards compatible consoles that exist. All right, and only ones that are North American releases. All right, so we're not going to cover a bunch of stuff that came out in Japan or even Europe. I think there's some backwards compatibility in Europe
there definitely is.
Specific to Europe. Okay, so starting with Sega, the Genesis, released August 14, 1989, was backwards compatible with the Master System, which was released in September of 1986. See, it was like 4 months after the Atari 7800, which is why the Atari 7800 beat it for backwards compatibility. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Since the Genesis... Oh, no, I remember where I was going with this. The Master System was backwards compatible in Japan with the SG-1000, right? In Japan. But it was also released 4 months after the 7800. So even though it was a backwards compatible console itself, it was preceded by the 7800. So good on you, Atari. You still won.
Yeah.
And we're not including that because it's a Japanese only, but I don't have to even talk about it because it wasn't the first one. So Sony, the PlayStation 2, was released on October 26th of 2000 following the largely successful PlayStation 1. So what did Sony do? They put in hardware backwards compatibility in the PS2 for the PS1.
Yep.
Which is officially available on all models of the PS2. Good on you, Sony. Then they did
That's
the
what you need to do
PS3.
every system, man.
Then they
Come
did
on,
the
PlayStation.
PS3.
Yeah.
All models of the PS3 are backwards compatible with the PS1. Every single one. Okay? But on the PlayStation 2 side of things, all right, Sony seems like after PS1 said, you know what, we're going to do something weird. And we're going to make the PS2 have a strange processor and modding and graphical interface and everything else. Sorry, excuse me. And therefore, when they went to the PS3, they had to put in like specialty hardware from the PS2 to make PS2 games run on the PS3. I'm lucky enough to have one of the backwards compatible via hardware PS3 consoles. So it's
I am
literally
not.
it's literally hardware compatible with all PS2 games. They all look pretty good. But after that first run, they did a half breed, I'll call it, software and hardware mixture to play PS2 games. And then finally, by the third revision of the FAT models, the original FAT model of the PS3, they just did away with emulation altogether. All about hardware, software, everything. No PS2 disc will play in a PS3 after the first two revisions. You can probably hack, I don't know. I'm not going to disavow, as Jeremy would say, I disavow. But you can buy digitally PS2 games, which is not... It's not the best way to do it, in my opinion, but it is an option. And for people that want PS2 games on their PS3, you can still get it. You just can't play them with the discs you bought back in 2000. All right, now here's a long list coming. Nintendo. The Game Boy Color was backwards compatible with the original Game Boy games.
Yeah, it was, and it was awesome.
Yes. The Nintendo Game Boy Advance was backwards compatible with both the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color for all models of the Game Boy Advance except the Game Boy Micro, which could only play Game Boy Advance games.
Yep, that console that no one bought.
Then the Nintendo DS, officially backwards compatible with Game Boy Advance games, but only the original two models, the Nintendo DS and the DS Lite.
Yes.
Starting with the DSi and the DSi XL, no more backwards compatibility. So, then the 3DS. All 3DS models can play all Nintendo DS games. So that's pretty cool. Good job, Nintendo. Now on to consoles with the GameCube. All right, and we're not going to count.
Not as good with backwards compatibility in the console.
Well, no, the GameCube actually, it's funny. The GameCube has the largest library of games of any Nintendo console ever because of what peripheral?
The Game Boy player.
That is correct. So the Game Boy player can play Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and original Game Boy games. Okay, so it's got a massive library.
Does that really count as a backwards compatible thing, though? Because the handhelds are not really in that same line.
Well, the Game Boy Advance came out first, so yes, it is.
All right, fine.
Before the Game Boy Player, I should say.
Okay.
The Nintendo Wii was backwards compatible on the first release of it with GameCube directly.
Yes.
Hardware capable, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And then the Wii U, probably my favorite of the whole bunch, besides GameCube might be. I don't know. Wii U or GameCube toss-up for me. The Wii U is directly backwards compatible with all Wii games.
Wii games.
And all Wii peripherals, which is the first time I think that's ever been done. Everything that worked on the Wii worked on the Wii U directly.
As long as you had the Wii Motion Plus dongle to stick onto the controllers.
No, you didn't even need that. The original the Wii controllers without the Wii Motion Plus will work. But if it's a Wii Motion Plus required game, it still won't work. Because even on the original Wii, if you needed Wii Motion Plus, you were dead in the water anyways. So
fair.
Every Wii accessory will work on the Wii U. That was part of the marketing strategy. You already have everything you need. Just buy the Wii U.
Marketing strategy was terrible.
Yes, it was. But technically, all they had to say was, look, this is an upgrade for the Wii. All your peripherals will still work. Kind of like what the Xbox is saying about the Xbox Series X.
That's what the U is.
Yeah. Upgrade. Wii upgrade.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'm pretty certain that's what that means.
All right, so now we're on to Will's favorite, Microsoft. All right, the Xbox 360, released November 22nd, 2005, was backwards compatible with the Xbox. Actually, did you know it's right out of the gate? It was backwards compatible.
Yes, I did.
212 games directly on launch were backwards compatible with the Xbox 360. And officially, 461 games were compatible with the Xbox 360.
Yep, I had no idea that they added to that.
Yeah.
I thought at the time I thought it was just a hardware thing, so I didn't realize that they had to emulate it.
Yeah, yeah.
However, the only game that I have that doesn't work properly on that is Munch's Odyssey. The audio doesn't work.
Really?
Yeah, so
Hmm.
you only get like the in-game audio, not like the character dialogue. It's really frustrating.
Hmm. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
And then the Xbox One, November 22nd, 2013. Did you know that basically all of the Xbox consoles came out on November 22nd?
I think yeah, I knew that at one point in time. Yeah,
I think the original Xbox came out on like the 23rd, but it's basically Thanksgiving weekend. You can expect an Xbox.
I like
So
it.
my prediction is that the Series X will come out in November of this year.
You'll have a
Probably,
choice between buying a turkey and buying your Xbox.
the turkey would probably be cheaper.
Yeah, well, that's why I wasn't gonna buy a turkey.
Yeah, yeah. So the Xbox One came out November 22nd, 2013.
Hmm.
It was officially made compatible with 41 original Xbox games, and the reason why that list is not as large as the 360 is not due to performance issues, it's due to licensing issues.
Yep.
If they could have made the original discs readable in the disc reader of the Xbox One, it would have been much easier. But since they had to make everything emulate via digital software, they had to get the licensing all set up
Yeah.
and then download it to the Xbox One.
It would have been the same thing even if they had it hardware backwards compatible. So you would
No,
have to have a permission.
no, you don't.
Are you sure
If
about
you can
that?
if you can plug a disc in and it plays without any additional software, you're good to go.
Hmm.
You can't if the disc reads in the Xbox, that's fine. Microsoft owns the rights to the Xbox. If they can make it play the original Xbox games physically on the disc without
I thought the
downloading,
problem is just the fact that you have it licensed to that system. So if
no,
you have it go to the next system, I mean that's how Spawnwave explained it. Maybe I misunderstood them.
you misunderstood. So the reason why it's a problem is if they made just a blanket emulation on the console, that's fine. You
Mm.
could plug in anything and try it. If Xbox is only providing the means to play the game, that's fine, because then
Okay.
you have to supply the game. They're not supplying the game or the rights to the game or anything else. They're just saying, hey, you can probably play this on our console. That's fine. It's when you have a download of the game, which is what happened on the Xbox One. Adam talked to us about this on our podcast, if you remember
Mhm.
correctly. If you're downloading software that includes the original game files, that's where the licensing issue happens, because essentially they're selling you a new digital copy of the game.
Okay.
That's why it's different. The 360, it's officially compatible with 575 Xbox 360 games. That's crazy.
Hmm.
And it launched in November 2015, the backwards compatibility program, with 104 games on launch.
Yep.
That's
This
pretty
is
good.
actually what got me to buy the Xbox One.
Hmm. So, well, with that being said, what is the future of backwards compatibility?
Well, right now, both the big two systems, so PlayStation 5 and the Series X, or whatever they decide to have the actual name, just Xbox, they're both rumored to be fully backwards compatible with all their previous systems. We'll see if that actually ends up being totally true. I think the Xbox is probably more likely going to be backwards compatible with everything that they have. And then I bet they're going to announce a bunch at E3. So, like, say they're going to double the original Xbox number and maybe add another 100 360 titles or something. We already know they're going to be fully backwards compatible with all Xbox One games. So then for PlayStation, the rumors are saying that they're going to be fully backwards compatible. We'll have to see because all of those PlayStations have really weird, software requirements, and they have an issue with it every generation where they can be backwards compatible with some of the games and not other ones, depending on what system it came out for originally. So, I mean, if they can do that though, that gives like PlayStation such a huge advantage because I mean that's four generations of games.
If the
uh,
PS3 emulation works at
hmm
all,
Yeah.
they'll have so many people jumping on board.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even fault them. Like, I would be tempted. That'd be amazing. Because I
I
know.
mean, there's a ton of people still holding on to the original PS3s because when they came out, they had all backwards compatibility for everything.
Yep. Hmm. So people
I don't
are,
know.
hungry for that. I think that is something that people are looking forward to and hoping for. I know that it didn't translate to a huge increase in sales for Microsoft, but it definitely gave them some goodwill with the community. And then PlayStation, although it had much better first party exclusives, that's why it sold so well this generation. But I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of people would have really liked to be able to pop in that PlayStation 3 disc and play it.
Yep.
I know you're one of them. So if they can manage that, I think that'd be amazing. As
I
far
would dump
as
all of my PlayStation consoles, not
yeah,
handhelds, if I could do
hmm
that. I would literally just be like, okay, see you later, PS3. See you later, PS1. See you later, PS4. Boom. Good to
yeah,
go.
yeah. Well, I think going on a little diatribe right here, the Xbox One really could have won so big with this generation if the reason why it was called the Xbox One was because you could play all of the previous Xbox games. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like all of them in one. That'd have been great, but they didn't do it.
That's why if they just call the next one the Xbox, they have to make it play everything.
Yep.
So,
I think that's their goal. We'll see if the licensing, if it's a hardware thing, apparently they'll be fine. So maybe they'll actually just put it in there. That'd be cool.
so now I'm going to talk about something else real quick. I
Do it.
don't like the backwards compatibility, the way they implemented Wii U games on the Switch. I don't
Yes.
like digital only backwards
No.
compatibility where Sony resells you all of your old games. It's like, screw that, I've already got them, I'll play them on my old
hmm
console. I also don't like the fact that when I put a disc in, it has to download, right? I like the
hmm
fact that Microsoft supported it without you having to pay extra money, but I don't like having to download files for emulation. It should just run it off the disc reader built into the console. Otherwise, what's the point?
hmm Yep.
But I will agree. I will say that it makes sense because that's the way the consoles were built. They were built
hmm
to install discs to the system, not to play them directly off the disc.
Yep.
But at the same time, if Blu-rays can play directly off the disc, then come on, guys, you had some replayability on that disc drive.
Yeah, it's screwy. So, originally when they both launched, that wasn't going to be a thing with either console. And I remember when Microsoft actually announced that backwards compatibility, the head guy at Sony actually commented, it's like, I didn't know that was possible. So they weren't thinking about it.
Nope.
So hopefully both companies now have implemented a better system. And again, with the having to rebuy all the games on PS4 sucks.
Yep.
So again, like I don't complain about the few minutes it takes to download on Xbox because their games are so small, it only takes a few minutes now compared to the hours it takes to get an actual Xbox One game to download. But
Good
yeah,
point. That's a fair point. I
yeah, so
think
I've been ruined because yeah, it was so much better to just pop into 360 or into the original Xbox and play it immediately. But now because I'm so used to games taking hours to play, um, the couple minutes is fine.
I had somebody was at the house the other day, like maybe a month or two ago, and we were getting ready to play a GameCube game, right? And I hadn't played it in a long time, so I was popping the disc in, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go use the bathroom while it loads," and I'm like, and then it came up on the screen immediately, and we were both like, "Oh yeah, gaming used to be great."
I know. Oh, I used to be able to just pop it in and
It
go.
was like
Oh, it's
boom,
wonderful.
I was like, "Whoa!" And the graphics don't even look that much worse
hmm
because they actually like. I think they spent more time on making the graphics tuned to the system. Nowadays,
Yeah.
it's like make everything as high fidelity as possible and just roll with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but go ahead.
And then for the next Switch, if they end up releasing the Switch Pro, do you think that they would add any backwards compatibility into that system?
Oh, they have to. You've got too big of an audience to not do it. I mean, think about it. The reason why Wii U discs don't play on the Switch is because it's portable and there's
hmm
not a big audience. But when you went from the Wii to the Wii U, you had 100 million people with Wii stuff. Okay? You had the biggest audience Nintendo's ever had. So you had to make everything work so that you could
hmm
retain as much of an audience as possible. Now, that didn't work out for them, but it could have.
hmm
So with the Switch 2 or the Switch, whatever they do with the Switch systems, they just need to do that. They need to make everything from the original Switch, just like they did from DS to 3DS. Everything needs to be compatible from one to the next.
hmm And it'd also be cool if they added a slot for the 3DS.
That would
So
be awesome.
you could play all that too. Because, although they're saying the 3DS isn't dead, it's dead.
No, it's not.
It's dead.
There's still a couple games coming out, Will.
No,
Don't burst
in
my
all
bubble.
intents and purposes, it's gone.
Okay, whatever. So,
As someone who loves the 3DS,
final question. Okay, should
okay, yeah,
backwards compatibility be a priority going forward?
yes,
I'm gonna agree because I think at this point we've got at least 4 generations of Microsoft. It'll be 5 generations of Sony, and I'm not even gonna try and think about how many generations of Nintendo that'll be. But I think at the least for games that are on old carts, not discs, and that type of thing, Nintendo needs to have an eShop that works, just like they did on the Wii U. Have a good eShop. Microsoft and Sony, you don't have the same excuse. All of your consoles have discs.
yep,
Make the disc reader read all of the discs from all the generations, all right? Because I think next generation, the disc readers are gone. After this generation coming up now.
yep, and I'm done. Then I'm done.
So it would be great to have one last hurrah with a disc reader that reads everything. So,
Agreed.
just for the preservation of gaming. But as always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
And we will see you
On the next CHRILLCAST.